In order to be with my stepbrother, I lost my inheritance rights to a wealthy family. He was beaten so hard that he lost the hearing on one side. Both were deserted by their friends and relatives. We swore that we would love each other at least until the next life to justify this tragic price. However, in the 7th year, we became a couple with no communication except hatred. I was hysterical every day to confirm with him. Do you still love me? Do you still love me? Do you still love me? And he always chooses to answer silence with the side that can't hear. One sunny afternoon, I followed him to a corner cafe. I saw him smiling faintly at a pretty boy with a relaxed brow. Suddenly I felt relieved. I took nothing with me except the memories. No matter how many times I am asked this question, my answer is always, I still love you, so let you go. 01. From receiving the location from the private investigator to getting there, it only took me 12 minutes. Ran a red light. There was no need to be so nervous. After a casual search, I saw a popular review on a certain review website, a good place for couples to date. It's not a place to discuss serious business. So I stepped on the accelerator to the bottom. As soon as I parked opposite the cafe, my eyes caught sight of the two people. One in a suit and tie, the other in a cream-colored hooded sweatshirt. My boyfriend Cody James, and the shameless bitch who seduced my boyfriend. The two of them didn't even try to hide anything and just sat openly on the street. He ordered 2 small cakes that were usually said to be unhealthy and placed them in front of the man in the hoodie. My optic nerves were burning with anger. I gritted my teeth, opened the car door with one hand, and grabbed the Americano from the cup holder with the other. Full glass, lots of ice. Throwing it at it can instantly destroy that sweatshirt that is deliberately pretending to be young. The door didn't open, because I saw that Cody smiled. My movements were so stiff that I was like an old, dilapidated robot, and I could clearly hear the sound of my own joints becoming stiff. The sunlight shines through the car window film without any loss. Cody had a faint, shallow smile on his face, his expression relaxed, his brows relaxed. It is as beautiful as a warm-toned oil painting. The years are peaceful and the sunlight is soft. I don't know what the boy said to him, but his smile deepened and he leaned forward as if he wanted to listen more carefully. I slowly opened my eyes. As a peeping Tom who couldn't stand the light of day, I could only hide in the dark carriage and spy on Cody's pleasure. My boyfriend was very happy to be amused by others. How long has it been since we last saw each other? He looked so happy and relaxed. Suddenly I felt like I was 7 years old again, with my father holding the hand of a strange aunt, and the aunt holding Cody's hand. He was wearing a black and white striped sweater and looked like a gentle and docile child. My father said, "Call me brother." At that time, I was eating a big candy in my mouth, and I mumbled, "Goo goo." He smiled just like he did today, lightly and gently. He corrected me with a smile, "It's my brother." The cold water droplets dripped along the wall of the cup onto my thighs, soaking a large area of cloth. The hand holding the coffee cup was so cold that I lost all feeling. I looked down blankly. Strangeness. There are only a few drops of water, what should I do? Like drowning. It was already midnight when Cody came back. When he turned on the light, he saw me sitting on the sofa with my knees hugged. He paused for a moment, then changed his shoes and took off his watch and placed it casually on the storage tray. He didn't even bother to ask me why you didn't turn on the lights. He walked to the dining table, poured a glass of water and drank it slowly. The Adam's apple is very sexy. Cody. I took the initiative to break the silence. He didn't respond, just gave me a look. How long have we not done this? The Adam's apple stopped. He put down the water cup, hooked his slender index finger around his bow tie, and loosened it impatiently. I'm very tired. It was no surprise that he had been rejecting me this way every time during this period. I nodded. Okay, let's change the question. I'm really tired, what is it? How long has it been since you smiled at me? Cody stopped talking abruptly and turned his head to look at me. I laughed. Why, are you so tired that you can't even raise your lips? Do you want me to become a college student and wear a hoodie to make you laugh? He was stunned for a moment, and soon his face darkened. How many times do I have to tell you? Stop following me. Well, I won't do it anymore. Heh, Cody sneered. I won't believe a single word of your promises anymore. As he said this, he picked up the coat he had just taken off and turned to walk towards the door. I'm staying in the garden tonight. In the past 2 years, Cody's company has grown bigger and bigger, and we have gotten rid of our initial embarrassment and poverty. I bought one villa apartment after another. The days of being kicked out of home and having to sleep under a bridge will never come back. At first I complained that there were only 2 of us and it would be too big to accommodate us. He said that each suite has a different experience and he can change it to another one. However, from the beginning to the end, I only lived in the original apartment. It was a little small, but it was filled with our things and was very cozy. The rest became convenient places for him to escape from me. Watching him put on the clothes he had just taken off without hesitation, I knew he was determined to leave tonight. But I still opened my mouth the moment he grabbed the door handle. Elder brother. He will stop. I know this is my last weapon. Cody really stopped without turning around and waited for my next words without saying a word. Do it. I heard him snort and reopen the door. Please, brother. I added, then swallowed the rest of the sentence. After all, it was the last time. This time, he responded to me. He turned around, strode over to me, pressed the back of my neck, and forced me to lie down on the sofa. The crisp sound of a belt buckle being unfastened sounded behind me, but my thoughts were scattered at this moment. Would he be so rude to that boy? I will listen carefully to his needs. My brain replayed the afternoon scenes like a self-torturer, and every frame was of Cody's care and tenderness. I was suddenly pulled back to reality by the tearing pain, without any caress or foreplay. I kicked my legs in pain, but he sneered. Isn't this what you wanted, Travis Sanders? Are you satisfied now? The pain gave me a strange feeling of pleasure. I buried my face in the sofa cushions, gasping for air and stumbling over my words as I asked him, Cody, do you still love me? My answer was continued rough action. I clenched my teeth, my knuckles turning white as I gripped the sofa cushions. Do you still remember that we promised to love each other until the next life? Cody still didn't speak. Elder brother. Finally, her voice trembled. Do you regret being with me? Cody completed his task in silence and pulled away without a trace of nostalgia. I know you heard me answer me. He tidied himself and uttered 2 words indifferently. Boring. When I heard the door close, the tears that had been suppressed the whole time finally fell. If Cody had looked into the room, he would have seen the large suitcase I had packed. But now, I don't want to take any luggage with me. I took away the 18 years of knowing, loving, and hating Cody. Some people say that if you throw away all your yesterdays, your steps will become lighter. Cody will definitely relax. I wish him well. 03. I was wandering around aimlessly alone, and during that time, Cody's message box was quiet, with no message. On a whim, I joined a tour group to Iceland. We had booked a trip to celebrate turning 18 and originally planned to get our marriage certificate with Cody. After my family found out about my relationship with him, I was unable to go. Later I was too poor to go, and later I became rich but didn't have time to go. I thought traveling could help me relax, but I didn't expect that I would still be thinking about Cody the whole way. Think about why we have come to this point today. Maybe it's because after falling into the mud, the once most precious dignity becomes the cheapest thing. I went from never looking at the price when buying things to haggling over everything. Or maybe during the holidays, other people's families are reunited and enjoying the lively atmosphere, while we can only face the loneliness in a room. These little details erode the feelings that I thought would not waver. I started to worry and be anxious, afraid that Cody would regret it. It was me who seduced him, it was me who turned him gay, and it was me who caused him to end up in this situation today. I am the one who hysterically confirms his love for me every day and bombards him with phone calls if he doesn't reply immediately. At the beginning, Cody would coax her patiently, saying, "Brother will always love you." Slowly he fell silent. Cody is deaf in his right ear, which was damaged by a punch from his enraged father. When he didn't want to respond, he would turn his right side towards the person and pretend not to hear. I understood his perfunctory attitude, and the more panicked I became, the more I pressed him. As a result, tensions between us grew. He was so nervous that he needed to relax with others and take a breath. There was a newly graduated college student in the tour group who said that he was stood up by his roommate and could only come on the graduation trip alone. Seeing that I was alone, he unilaterally declared that he and I were friends, followed me around, and kept whispering in my ear. I really want to find his battery and remove it. I was so annoyed by the noise that I thought so. So you're heartbroken? One day he suddenly asked me this. Towards the end of the journey, my temper had been worn out by him. Why did you break up? I thought about it and came to the conclusion I was pushing him too hard and he was suffocating. Why force her? Because I love him very much. The college student thought for a moment and said, "It sounds like you are unrequited love. This doesn't count as a broken heart." I stopped. It was the first time in these days that I experienced a big emotional fluctuation. In the air mixed with ice particles, my chest heaved violently and my face turned red. He was frightened by me and tried to make excuses quickly. "Oh, I loved you, but I didn't love you anymore later. There's nothing I can do about it. People's hearts change. Let's move on. Cody must have loved me. Otherwise, everything we have experienced over the years will become a joke." After returning to China and inserting the card, there was still no new news from Cody. He swiped the screen expressionlessly and saw a text message from an unfamiliar number. "My uncle is critically ill. If you still have a conscience, come back and take a look." 04. I hadn't seen my father for 7 years, and he was in such bad condition that I couldn't recognize him. His face was grayish-white, like freshly mixed cement. When he saw me, his dry and cracked lips twitched slightly and his pupils trembled. "Dad." I walked over and held his hand. My cousin followed closely behind me, never leaving my side. I'm afraid it wasn't his intention to let me see him for the last time. He definitely wasn't that kind. I stroked his large, rough hands, the same hands that had pulled me out of Cody's bed and beaten him until he was deaf. At that time, Cody's mother had passed away, and he raised his stepson out of kindness. Unexpectedly, the result of my kindness was that I witnessed my 2 sons entangled in bed. He wanted to kick Cody out, but I refused, so I was kicked out too. Instigated by his uncle, he was so angry that he directly notarized the will, and all the family property was inherited by his cousin. He was so majestic. How come he became like this in just these few years? I want to ask him if he has any regrets. Dad? As soon as I opened my mouth, my throat choked. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. The dream-like 7 years poured down like the white light above my head, soaking me. I heard myself say, "I regret this." Before I could see my father's reaction, my cousin hurriedly grabbed my shoulders. "That's enough. Don't disturb Uncle's rest." I was dragged out of the ward, and as soon as the door was closed, my cousin's expression immediately turned cold. He looked sarcastic. "It's already settled. There's no point regretting it now." I didn't try to change the will, but he kept insisting. "It's so funny. Weren't you very tough back then? It's only been a few years and you're already broken up? You found a new love. I've heard that for people like you, being together for just 1 month is considered a golden wedding anniversary." I looked at the new love he mentioned, a college student who was guarding 2 large suitcases downstairs. Even though he has said the name several times, I still can't remember it. He was originally planning to transfer in my city, but when he heard that something happened at home, he immediately followed me. When I approached him, he was concentrating on choosing a hotel. "Come stay at my house." I started calling for a taxi. "If I don't stay now, I won't have a chance anymore after a while." 05. There were a lot of boxes piled up in the old house. "It seems some people can't wait to move in." The college student exclaimed, "Wow, you are a rich young man." After a pause, he added innocently, "Then why didn't you even order lobster soup in Iceland and only ate noodles?" I'm too lazy to explain. He didn't understand that people who had experienced famine had a morbid obsession with high-calorie, high-quality carbohydrates. Do I have the same obsession with Cody? My heart feels empty. College students' attention is quickly drawn to other things. He stood by the window, pointed at the small garden downstairs and exclaimed, It's so beautiful, why doesn't anyone take care of it? I looked over and saw that the clusters of endless summer were all askew, the climbing frames of roses were scattered all over the ground, and the double-petaled anemones were all withered. The first time I saw Cody was in front of a large field of anemones. I grew up with him, stumbling along, and developed special feelings for him. Little by little, I dragged him, the flower of the high mountain, into the web of pain and joy. The address changed from brother to husband to Cody, and finally back to brother. After a passionate love, the garden becomes a mess, just like this one. Do you mind if I prune it tomorrow? Honestly, my childhood dream was to be a gardener. I don't mind, but you might be wasting your time. I yawned, pulled back the quilt, and lay down. This place will soon be owned by a new owner. The new owner won't like the flashy European style and will most likely reject the rebuilding plan. College students don't care at all and are even full of energy. It's okay, just satisfy your craving. Too bad he didn't get over his addiction. That night, my father passed away. Couldn't wait to leave. Maybe if I hadn't said that, he could have lived a few more days. I am such a nuisance. 06. College students followed me to the funeral. He asked me cryptically, "Why does it feel like everyone is staring at us?" I lowered my head and adjusted the flowers on my chest. Because I am an unfilial son who didn't get a penny, they were afraid that I would go crazy. Why didn't I get a penny? I began to think carefully about his name. But my mind is full of why. His curiosity was too strong, so I planned to just shut him up. Because I'm a homosexual and I was having sex with my brother. When I was caught, my brother and I were still together, in the same room where you slept last night. It's great, the world suddenly became quiet. I looked at my cousin's family, whose faces were filled with grief but whose brows were filled with joy. My troubled heart gradually calmed down, turning into a calm lake without any wind or waves. But the college students kept throwing stones into it. He came closer. Is that the one? I shook my head. How could I possibly like him? Oh, I didn't say that. My heart suddenly skipped a beat. I slowly, stiffly, raised my head a little bit, and met a gaze not far away. Should have expected that he would come. Cody was holding a black umbrella, standing under a cypress tree, his posture upright, exuding a sense of alienation and indifference that kept people at a distance. Some people with ulterior motives have already started to look at her openly and gossip about her. Cody ignored me and looked straight at me. Half a month later, I still can't control myself. My hands started shaking involuntarily, and my whole body began to tremble as well. How are you? I couldn't give an answer, so I looked at Cody walking towards me and asked anxiously, "Can we hold hands?" Holding hands? The college student tilted his head. It took a moment for me to realize. Oh, you want to make him jealous. The cold hands were held in the large, warm palms. The next second, Cody stopped in front of him. His eyes were dark and he didn't look around at all. He didn't take the college students seriously at all. The noise swarmed over like mosquitoes and flies. The college student may have felt embarrassed and struggled slightly. I clenched my fist and looked Cody in the eye. "Brother, I saw Dad for the last time." Cody nodded slightly. "Did you talk?" I said a few words. "That's fine." There was no change on his face, as if he was discussing something insignificant. I wanted to remind him that he had also called my father Dad for 10 years. The words came to his lips, but he swallowed them back. Cody must hate the MO family and all of us for making his life so difficult. But I still couldn't help asking, "Aren't you curious about what I said?" He replied, "I have said everything that needs to be said, and I have no regrets." How could there be no regrets? My life has been tightly bound by regrets and I can't break free. The biggest regret is probably that at this moment, there is no one to stop us from loving each other, and our relationship is no longer constrained by life. But when one person no longer loves, the other person has to let go. Cody looked at it from a distance and then looked away. "When you've had enough fun, go home." I was stunned. His tone took me back to junior high school. After school, I secretly followed my classmates to the game hall. When we were playing games, Cody found me. He didn't scold me or urge me to do my homework. He just did his homework beside me. As soon as I showed the slightest sign of lack of interest, he started packing his bag, held out his hand to me, and said calmly, "Go home when you've had enough fun." Then we held hands and walked home under the shadows of the street lights, with the driver following slowly behind us. When I got home, there was soup that my aunt had heated up and snacks that my father had brought back from abroad. The road is long, but you can see the way ahead. And now, I lowered my head and smiled bitterly. I have no home anymore. 07. After blow-drying his hair, the college student asked me if I wanted to go to his city to play for a while. The graduate school term hasn't started yet, and I have nothing to do anyway, so I'll be your tour guide. You're quite nice. I stared at the smoke detector on the hotel ceiling and tried to speak naturally. I don't understand why your roommate stood you up. He immediately felt aggrieved. I only found out after graduation that the three of them were gay and didn't want to play with me at all. But when I went out to play, I met you who was also gay. I really have, what a physical condition. I don't understand you guys. Are men's lips softer when kissed? One by one. The college student mumbled as he got into bed. The bedside table between the two beds was very narrow. The airflow caused by him lifting the quilt brushed across my cheek, causing my hair to move slightly. When the lights were turned off, the view fell into darkness. During the day, college students can divert some of my attention, making the pain that torments me less noticeable. After I calmed down, my nerves began to be pulled and tortured again, and my heart was filled with noise. Many mouths, many voices. The feeling of drowning slowly climbed up from my chest to my throat, submerging my mouth and nose. I sat up suddenly. What's wrong with you? The bedside lamp was turned on, and I looked at the college student's sleepy face, and my heart slowly settled down. Nightmare. I shook my head. How about not turning off the lights? Will you be able to sleep? I shook my head again. Do you want to chat? I can order you a cup of coffee now. Do you want to try it? The boy, who was suddenly interrupted, opened his eyes in confusion. Try what? A man's mouth. 08. The moment I said it, I felt like I was going crazy. But I'm not the only one who's crazy. The college student was stunned for a while and scratched his face. It's not impossible. Before I could regret it, I quickly got out of bed and got into his bed. His whole body tensed up. Just kiss? Right. He pursed his lips and raised his hand to touch my cheek. His fingertips trembled slightly as he gently stroked his lower lips. The college student's eyes became confused, really, very soft. All humans are the same. Have you never kissed? His face turned red. He stiffened his neck and stammered, So what if we haven't kissed each other before? As he said this, he grabbed the back of my neck in anger. He adjusted the angle left and right and slowly approached. Twice, when it came to the last bit of distance, just about to stick to him, he failed. No, try again. This time he looked extremely serious. I really want to kiss you. When he was less than a finger's distance away, he paused. I thought he would back off like he had done the previous 2 times, but he didn't. When the breaths were entangled to the extreme, my heart suddenly tightened and I turned my head away abruptly. His lips brushed across her cheek and finally landed awkwardly on the ends of her hair. Feel sorry. Even though Cody hasn't kissed me for a long time, the last time was last Christmas, and he kissed me when he was a little drunk. But kissing other people is still not okay. The college student stepped back awkwardly and said, "How about I just order a coffee?" As he spoke, he really started looking for takeout, but at this time, there were only a few coffee shops still open. I looked at the young face under the warm yellow light, feeling a little dazed. "You are so kind to everyone?" "No." He didn't look up, still trying to find an open store. "It feels like no matter what happens, you'll leave this beautiful world at any time." "Is it so obvious?" The college student paused, and his face became serious when he looked up. "Do you still remember the lady in the blue jacket in the tour group? And the uncle in the yellow pants? Everyone noticed it. You lost your wallet on the first day you arrived, and your phone on the 3rd day, but you were not in a hurry at all. Others were taking photos crazily at the check-in point, but you just watched quietly, as if you didn't intend to take any pictures at all. Look, a few of us even created a group, and they were still asking about your situation yesterday. Sore ice. There was a mass of hot stuff in the chest cavity that was trying to break through the bones and skin and burst out. I knew that even if I left Cody's life, he would never really be let go. We can never get around the things we do wrong and will be entangled in wrong decisions for our entire lives. Only when one of the two people dies can the remaining one be free. Only with death will love and hate truly disappear. Then, after many years, when he thinks of me again, he will only think of me as the cute younger brother who seduced him and made a mistake when he was young, instead of the crazy, hideous, old lover who goes crazy every day. I grabbed the college student's arm and met his slightly surprised gaze. May I have your name? Paul Butler. This time, I remembered. Paul, we don't kiss anymore. Aha. Just do it. Ha. 09. I had to find an outlet for the emotions running rampant in my body. Regardless of Paul's frightened face, he took off his pajamas. I bought it at the mall before traveling. It's a bit prickly and not skin-friendly. Fuck, are you serious? Do I look like I'm kidding? I lay down with my back to him and covered my head with a pillow. You can treat me as a girl. He was shocked. How can this be the same? I don't know either. Anyway. I paused and said with a hint of innocent mockery, whether it's a man or a woman, you haven't tried it, have you? Provocation works. Paul gritted his teeth for a while and finally started to take it off. No further information. I waited and waited, took away the pillow, turned around and saw him swiping his phone frantically. What are you doing? Just learn it at the last minute. It's too ridiculous. Isn't this kind of thing based on instinct? The first time with Cody, it seemed like there was no difficulty at all and it just came naturally. I waited for a long time, and when I decided to give up, he said he had learned it. So I lay back down again, and my strong and sturdy body immediately pressed down on me. His heartbeat and body temperature were also transmitted. I couldn't help but hold the bed sheet tightly and tried to speak lightly, not knowing who I was trying to comfort. It's okay. You can do whatever you want, it's okay to be a little rough, it won't hurt me. Paul responded randomly and took my pillow. Don't want this. Suddenly, I felt helpless as if my sniper cover was no longer effective and I was exposed in broad daylight. Before I could protest, something warm and soft touched the back of my neck. I'm starting, okay? I suddenly lost my voice. He pecked and kissed her, clumsily but with full dignity. It's so solemn that it makes me nervous. I originally thought that I could use him heartlessly to get through this difficult night, but now I realize that it's not possible. Paul is too pure and sincere. He is not the type to just walk away after doing something. Maybe he will continue to be responsible for me. I can't harm others anymore. Just as I was about to call for stop, Paul stopped first. What do you have here? He pressed gently on my shoulder blade, where there was a small bump. Bite. Last Christmas, Cody and I had a fight. It all started when we met an intern from his company in the restaurant. The intern and his friend did not make a reservation in advance and had to wait for a table for more than 3 hours. Cody did not refuse his eager request to share the table. If that were all, I wouldn't be so petty as to quarrel with him in the street. The intern's eyes were full of admiration when he looked at Cody, and he did not hide it at all. Even after I revealed my identity, he did not restrain himself at all. Cody said, "He just likes me, he didn't take any action, and it didn't affect our lives. Why should I fire him? Can't you just remind him that you have a boyfriend and let him give up the idea? Or are you reluctant?" It was embarrassing to quarrel in a street filled with festive atmosphere. I tried my best to suppress my anger and grievance, but I still completely broke down after hearing his casual words. I can't interfere with his feelings. We had a big fight that time, and I left him halfway and went to the bar to drink until very late, but was eventually found and taken back by Cody. He gave me some hangover relief soup, gave me a bath, and then half-pushed me onto the bed. When it was intense, my shoulder blades hurt a lot, but I didn't pay much attention to it at the time. After all, Cody always liked to bite me. As for the bulge, it is probably scar hyperplasia. Paul disagrees. He touched it carefully again. Not really, there seems to be something inside. as soon as the words fell. The next second, the door was kicked open and hit the wall with a loud bang. Cody walked into the room slowly with a gloomy face. "It's time to go home." The tone was cold. This was the second time in my life that I was caught cheating in bed. The first time being my own father. The second time by my own boyfriend. I was wrapped in only a blanket. I left home with nothing, and I returned home with nothing. The big suitcase was placed in the living room, and Cody raised his chin towards me. "Put everything back." I slowly walked over and opened it, and everything inside was still the same as I had arranged it. After taking out a set of clothes and changing into them, I turned to look at Cody, who was sitting on the sofa. "Cody, I've said what I need to say." Before leaving for Iceland, I sent him a message. "I wish you a smooth journey ahead." Originally, there were more than these 6 words. I typed a lot of them, but in the end I felt it was unnecessary, so I only kept this ending blessing. Cody didn't reply, so I assumed he knew what I meant and agreed. But now it seems that he has changed his mind again. But he should understand that there is no chance that we will ever be able to resolve our differences. We can't go back at all. Cody said nothing, and my cell phone started ringing. "It's Paul." The boy's voice was full of tension and concern, confirming my safety. "I'm fine. But..." I took a deep breath and clenched my phone. "I probably can't go to your hometown with you this time." The other end drew out the tone with regret. "Will it never work in the future? Can't we just be ordinary friends?" I pursed my lips, suppressing the inexplicable bitterness in my heart. "Yeah. Okay, then next time you can't sleep and feel uncomfortable, you can come to me. I'll buy you a coffee machine first." "Coffee machine? You can't even order coffee takeout at night." Very interesting train of thought. Very Paul. Just as I was about to reply, my phone was suddenly taken away. "The call is terminated." Cody raised his hand and the phone went directly into the fish tank. I looked at the series of fine bubbles rising from the bottom of the tank and felt very calm. From his series of actions and attitude tonight, I can feel Cody's unhappiness, anger, and he still loves me. But... Cody grabbed my chin sharply and tilted his right ear towards me. "You talk to it." I shut my mouth. But, for a moment, I fantasized about what it would be like to be in love with someone else. For example, with Paul. Healthy and normal. Talk a ton of meaningless nonsense every day. No need to guess the intention, just express your care and concern directly. But I know I don't deserve it. I could only close my eyes as Cody pressed down on me and roughly ripped off the clothes I had just put on. Hug him back. 11. Cody's perspective. Travis didn't know that his seduction skills were really poor. Rubbing legs under the dining table, seemingly unintentional physical contact, asking math questions wearing only a loose shirt after taking a shower, and then refusing to leave. It's crude, but I find it useful. I enjoy the way this little boy tries so hard to please himself. Even though it's very hard to pretend every time, my body is more honest than my heart and it feels swollen and painful. One stormy night, he lied that he was afraid of thunder and crawled into my bed. I touched his body and found it was naked, with no clothes on. I think I can't pretend anymore. Having achieved this, he must have reached his limit. So I pressed him down and kissed him with a distressed look on my face. "Elder brother." His voice was trembling and it was adorable. I had rehearsed this event many times in advance for this night that was destined to happen. Make sure he gets addicted and becomes completely dependent on me. The fact is, just as expected, every corner of the huge villa is a hotbed of our love. Travis couldn't bear it anymore and his eyes were filled with water, like a wet puppy. So cute that I want to eat him up in one bite. We were becoming more and more unrestrained at home, so it wasn't surprising to be caught. I feel very calm inside. It's only a matter of time. The only reason I stayed at the MO family was because of Travis. Wherever he is, it's home to me. In the first 2 years, we had a hard but satisfying life. Holding him on the narrow single bed felt like holding the whole world. Later, life was back on track, but something subtle changed. His world no longer consists of just me. He would discuss with me the handsome male star he had recently discovered, the new clerk in the coffee shop who looked like a male model, and the young mentor who changed his clothes and became a very gentlemanly villain. When Travis noticed that I was in a bad mood, he would smile and act like a spoiled child. "Brother, are you jealous?" I kept silent and just pressed him down to vent my anger, to vent my anxiety and panic. But it's of no avail. I watched helplessly as his attention gradually shifted to other people. Those damn others. I'm at my wit's end. One day at a company party, everyone drank too much, and a completely drunk female colleague accidentally rubbed her lipstick on my shoulder. When Travis saw this, he was furious all night. I pretended to be tired and coaxed him, but his desolate heart gradually revived. In his violent mood, I felt his jealousy, his care, and his love for me, like a gentle rain. Later I repeated the same trick many times and got the desired effect every time. Until last Christmas, maybe he had gone too far and Travis didn't come back until late at night. I went to every bar to look for him, and when I found him he was limp, surrounded by two men ready to pick him up at any time. I calmly brought him home, and while he was distracted, I installed the locator that had been prepared long ago into his back, behind the heart. This little gadget with a monitoring function can transmit the sound of his heartbeat in real time. When I was alone in another apartment, just listening to his heartbeat would bring me to the top of my excitement. Meet with a counselor at a coffee shop. I stared at the little red dot on my phone and knew he was right in front of me without even looking up. Once I had a taste of ringing love from his pain, I was hooked. The way he was furious, the way his eyes were filled with tears, the way his lips were trembling. It makes me feel deeply loved. After listening to my speech, the psychologist looked worried. "Aren't you afraid that if this continues, your lover will leave you?" I took a sip of coffee slowly, smiled deliberately, and leaned in front of him and whispered, "He can't leave me. Mr. Shin, frankly speaking, your condition is very serious. Please receive standardized treatment as soon as possible." I don't need treatment. All I need is Travis' love. Travis left a note, flew abroad, and was out of my control. So I bribed a middle-aged couple from the same travel agency to report the situation to me every day. Inevitably, he found out that there was a boy who had been pestering him. I didn't take him seriously. After all, Travis looked like he didn't want to pay attention to him the whole time. Later, Travis said he regretted it. I also took him to our old house and let him live in our old room. I can't sit still. So even though no one invited me, I went to the cemetery. Watching Travis panic and let the boy hold his hand, putting on a show for me. My heart calmed down again. There, I gave in and I hoped he would come home with me. Unfortunately, he didn't. Things started to get out of control in the evening. He called the boy's name. He remembered it. He was moved. Perhaps he himself did not notice that there was a faint smile on the corner of his mouth when he was talking to the boy. A doting and indulgent smile, with a relaxed expression. Even when I stood in front of him, he did not hide his closeness to that person. Travis, in front of me, thinking about other men. Thinking with lust and longing. This realization made every part of my body ache. The body seemed to be pierced. Our 18 years whizzed past the cave. I raised my hands, but couldn't catch anything. But it doesn't matter. Travis won't leave. Even if we are destined to become a pair of resentful lovers who constantly consume memories in order to move on. So what? I still love you, so I will never let you go even if I die.